Hello, YouTube. We are going to be watching another reaction. We are doing another reaction to Sony is digging their own grave. Let's watch. Let's hear what Mr. Ackman has to say.
Sony is currently digging their own grave. They are desperately hoping that all their detractors lay down, die, and accept the death of physical media to embrace a dystopian, all-digital future, one that's not half as cool as The Matrix. Whoa. After revealing their latest supervillain plot to destroy all physical games in the galaxy, Sony is now dealing with one of the largest and most well-deserved PR dumpster fires. Man, you'd have better luck finding Bigfoot than someone willing to unironically defend this company anymore. It's been a few weeks since Sony's bizarre seppuku attempt, and
That's why I am still on PC, baby.
Every day since July 1st, they have been relentlessly mauled, mocked, made fun of, and ratioed across all social media.
Oh,
Seeing
yeah,
such a
including
strong
KFC.
reaction from the gaming community, you know? It gave me hope that we could make a change, because everyone hated that, what Sony did, and nobody is on their side. Nobody. Right?
Wrong.
Literally, my brother-in-law literally got rid of his console. I think he was using an Xbox console, because I think Xbox is also about to do the same thing. Literally, he was asking me for like what PC parts, what PC monitor he should go for. Literally, the moment he discovered that, he was it's just hilarious.
Sony actually responded to us. Not officially, of course, and I can't be 100% certain, but they obviously don't respect their fans enough to communicate with them. I mean, they just come out and said that. This shit's crazy. La 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 la. I'm not owned. I'm not owned. Call it a hunch. La.
I continue to insist as I slowly shrink and transform into a corner cob.
La 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 la. I'm not owned. I'm not owned. Call it a hunch. But it seems like Sony has outsourced their PR department into the hands of the people that gamers trust more than anyone else. Game journalists.
The way he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black.
As I said in the last video, Sony's position is indefensible, which is why they didn't provide any justification for it. And even now, like, what I've seen amongst some of the game journalism is like, it's hard to call it a defense, but this is the best counter argument we got, so we got to talk about it. The only arguments I've seen in Sony's defense have come from those inside the industry. And YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead has proposed a compelling theory that Sony has also deployed a small contingent of bots. I mean clankers. And like the B1 battle droid,
and they really are pretty useless.
a company as big as Sony is more than capable of launching its own misinformation campaign. And it seems some game journalists have fallen for it. Its own misinformation campaign.
Despite outrage at Sony's shift towards a diskless, I'm still a little sick. A diskless, that's a diskless, I'm so stupid. Future, only 7 PlayStation games have managed more than 100,000 physical sales in the US this year.
And it seems some game journalists have fallen for it. Though to be fair, although I'm going to be criticizing companies like IGN, Eurogamer, Kotaku, and Polygon because they've all come out and said, leave alone the multi-billion-dollar company. Most, if not all, of these outlets have also posted articles criticizing Sony and their decision.
It's honestly one of the most baffling corporate failures to read the room since Microsoft handed Don Matrick a microphone and allowed him to discuss how the Xbox One probably wasn't gonna suit someone serving on a nuclear submarine.
So this isn't black and white, right? Not all game journalists are siding with Sony. But what I'm about to show you, Well, you decide. Amid the backlash to Sony's decision, just 7 PlayStation games have sold more than 100,000 copies in the US so far this year. Only 7 PlayStation games have sold more than 100K physical copies this year in the US. Did you know only 7 PlayStation games have managed more than 100,000 physical sales in the US this year? Only 2 PlayStation games have managed more than 10,000 physical sales in the US during the week ending on July 11th. Okay, stop. Why does this sound like one of those nonsense statistics thrown on the screen during an NFL football game? Like, Marshawn Lynch has rushed for more yards during the third quarter on Thursday night.
My nose is running.
Football in the second week of December than any other kicker has in the last 2 days. I don't know about you, but I like my psyops a little less obvious. I prefer if you shatter the puzzle and then let me put the pieces together, as opposed to just being like, yeah, this is how I'm trying to trick you. So why are these specific statistics being highlighted by multiple outlets? Coincidence?
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
Well, it's because these 2 points of data are the crux underpinning the entire argument that globally, PlayStation needs to abandon physical games and that medium should die globally. And as Eurogamer points out, while this is focused on the US, it is one of the largest in the video game industry by revenue spent. As such, consumer trends there have considerable influence. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm picking up what you're laying down. Basically, you're saying the whole world shouldn't be allowed to own games that they purchase, and that physical media deserves to die because Americans are fat and lazy and unwilling to drive to GameStop. Interesting angle. I'm not disagreeing with that last part, but it's because the digital market in the US doesn't sell as well that we're gonna shut down all other markets. Okay, that's the argument, and that's what this data supports. Interesting. Now, I'm not oblivious to the irony that someone from Europe wrote an article embracing and emulating one of our most honored stereotypes. Yes, as Americans, we too often forget that there are other countries on planet Earth. We got 50 states, man, and some of us can't even name all of them.
I can't.
Look, I've seen tons of tweets and articles saying the same bullshit. Only 7 PlayStation games have sold more than 100,000 physical copies in this part of the world so far this year. There are 5 qualifying modifiers to this statistic. The more qualifying statements or modifiers you have for a statistic, the more narrow its applicability becomes, right? What they're referencing is a study for why digital games should be shut down in the US. What's not included is why it has to include 121 other countries, 62% of the globe, just to give you the percentage. The data they're referencing does not support the conclusion that they're reaching. Halo reaching! And the data they are presenting is an omission by lie, as Twitter community notes has been ruthlessly informing people of on basically every single tweet PlayStation has been posting. Physical games is basically
I'll read it. Sony is pushing an all-digital future without being upfront about its limits. PS5 downloads can't be played from USB, and expanding storage requires an expensive NVMe SSD. Digital games are licenses, not true ownership. Physical discs preserve choice, competition, and ownership. Reports U.S. physical game spending rose 3% year over year to $1.6 billion for the 12 months ending May 2026. First increase since 2009. Driven by I was eating a cough drop. Give me a second. Okay, I can read better now. Driven by Nintendo Switch 2, Rhythm Heaven Groove sold 393,378 physical copies in its first week in Japan per Famitsu. I can't. This place data covers US physical PS5 sales only, not global sales. I messed up that whole sentence. Physical markets can be stronger in EU, Japan, and elsewhere. Highlighting a 100k US physical threshold ignores that some titles have sold millions worldwide, making this comparison incomplete and misleading. Sony is pushing the digital format, eliminating physical media, and closing its PS3 and PS Vita stores. This will severely damage the second-hand market and retail outlets. The EU has sanctioned Apple for comparable practices regarding digital rights. Okay.
Every single tweet PlayStation has been posting. Physical games is a global problem. It's not isolated in the United States, despite what this European gaming news outlet thinks. So how about I give you one statistic that these articles all conveniently left out. Based on PlayStation's own metrics, in 2025, they sold an estimated 60 to 70 million physical copies of their games across the world. And they have stated that physical sales represent about 20% of their revenue. Can someone explain the business logic of that? It's like, you know, business is going great. Let's shut down a fifth of it. Yet despite how little this data actually says, some journalists are running with it. PlayStation fans are still furious about physical discs, but the data proves Sony is right to kill them. Polygon, what the fuck, man? Sony's planned shift away from producing physical discs for PlayStation might be unpopular, but new sales data has highlighted the stark business reality behind it. The stark business reality, you know, the data proves Sony is right to kill them. Like think about what they're saying. It's like, I just think of some like bread company CEO sitting there like, man, we're just not selling nearly as many croissants in Spain as we are in France. So let's shut down our business in France. So I'm not sure what Eurogamer, IGN, Polygon, or any of these other outlets are trying to prove. I'm so confused by their messaging that it's like we can just completely disregard this argument. It doesn't mean anything. But there's one thing I keep hearing around the block that really bothers me. It's the idea that Sony will not back down. There's a 0% chance they'll reverse course. Analysts have insisted that there is 0 chance Sony will change its mind. Sony has no inclination to concede any ground to this uproar. Industry experts point out the smart business sense behind this decision. It remains
Aren't they like boycotting? Like, isn't like there's supposed to be like a boycott where they just turn off their game, their consoles, not booting it up, not turning the game up, not turning any games on, not going into the market, just having it just sit there for like 7 days. Like everybody is going to be doing that. I'm not sure if it already happened or is it still yet to happen. But I don't know.
likely that Sony will U-turn on this. A grand reversal of Sony's plans is exceedingly unlikely.
I won't change my mind because I don't have to. I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Now, these articles aren't necessarily siding with Sony, they're just pointing out what Sony wants you to believe. That resistance is futile, but I find it odd that this statement is not followed by, and here's why they're wrong. That's missing. If you're wondering why game journalist has become a pejorative slur and insult, this is why. It's because some of these journalists and outlets seem to have forgotten that they're supposed to advocate for the customer, and yet so often they instead try to minimize the real issues.
But me personally, you know, and you can call me part of the problem, I actually prefer having digital games.
Sony isn't even trying.
I hate journalists. Ever since that Cuphead video, game journalists just have no worth. They have no worth. They're not gamers. They're not gamers. They don't. If they are truly gamers, they would actually know what they're talking about. But it is literally just performative. Like, they're just fake.
To convince us that the end of physical media is somehow a good thing. They simply want you to believe that it's inevitable.
That is the sound of inevitability.
I mean, how could they convince us this is a good thing when they put out a company-wide gag order? Have you ever heard of such a thing? Things are going wide gag.
Sony imposed a strict gag order on employees amid backlash over physical game phase-out. Wasn't there a game that was supposed to come out on PlayStation, but when the game developers saw the comments, it was just nothing but bring back physical disc, bring back physical copies for PlayStation. The developer literally had to go out of their way to tell the audience it's on PC. Just to let you know, it's also going to be ported to PC, so it's okay.
Gag order. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Things are going great at Sony. Oh, what's that? The Dutch have filed a $500 million lawsuit. No big deal. Both Sony
Wait,
and
what?
what's that? The Dutch have filed.
Two major legal actions connect to a roughly 500 million figure involving Sony, an antitrust consumer lawsuit over digital pricing, and a recently concluded patent infringement case. Why is this the year of everybody getting like into a lawsuit or just getting sued? Like content creators, and now Samsung, like the three main RAM producing companies, they had to pay a fine, and now Sony is going through a lawsuit. Like, what is this? Why is there so many lawsuits happening? We're in August.
The $500 million lawsuit. No big deal. Both Sony and presumably some game journalists are trying to sow the seeds of doubt and defeatism in your mind. Do not water those weeds. That's the real message. The end of physical media is inevitable, and that we
can't fight nothing.
Sony is trying to act like they couldn't give two shits about our voices, boycotts, petitions, protests, or lawsuits. None of that will change anything. Now, this is a tactic known as suppression. It's used when a fire is too big and can't realistically be put out. So what they're trying to do is suppress the fire and make it smaller and then hope it dies on its own. If we ignore the elephant in the room, it'll starve and die on its own. But that's our cue that we need to add more fuel. We got to keep this fire lit like our homeboy Gwen, let me tell you. I don't know, man. After reading some of this, I'm starting to feel hopeless. Maybe they're right. Sony is a stubborn company, and when they make a decision, they don't reverse it.
And now, Sony has reversed its decision and will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices.
Hold up, they actually tried shutting down those stores 6 years ago? The same ones they just took offline a week ago? Oh shit, oh yeah, you weren't supposed to see that. Okay, you got me. Maybe Sony has responded to our feedback once. But what did that backlash even accomplish? It only delayed the closure of the PS3 and Vita stores for what, 5, 6, 7 years? And what does it really matter if 1 or 2 storefronts avoided closure and managed to stay in business for another 5 years? That's only half a decade. What's a decade? Just 1/10 of a century. But a century is just 10% of a millennium. So you see, that backlash didn't actually accomplish anything, is what I'm telling myself, right? So okay, besides that one time, which didn't matter, Sony has never reversed a major decision like this.
Following a major backlash from the Helldivers 2 community, Sony has reversed its decision to require PC players to link a PSN account.
I'm starting to think that maybe the gaming community has a long documented history of successful petitions and protests. Okay, I forgot about that, but yeah, okay. Maybe with enough pressure, Sony has backed down, but not this time. They are so...
I mean, it's literally the customers. The customer's always right. They are... No matter how much you don't like them, no matter how much you don't like your customers, no matter how much they could have bad takes or good takes, or you just don't want to listen to them, they are the ones that are putting money in your pockets.
Confident that they don't even care if you cancel your PlayStation Plus subscription.
And now players are canceling their PlayStation Plus subscriptions en masse to send a message, but experts claim it won't do any good.
Oh, the doubting. The doubting.
Yeah, take that. How does that feel?
I remember that. I'm sorry for pausing so much, but I remember, like, for some YouTube clips, I did see, like, when someone is trying to, like, cancel their subscription, Sony would, like, send a message like, oh, if you're canceling your subscription, I can't talk and have this cough drop in my mouth at the same time. So, if you cancel your subscription, Sony will send you a message saying, giving you like a deal, like, oh, if you don't cancel, you can take like a 50% off or an 80% off on your next payment or whatever, or another subscription plan.
I mean, how naive are you? Did you honestly think that there has ever been a widespread coordinated boycott that actually accomplished something? Look at Xbox. They're like 10 times bigger than Sony. They just jacked up the price of Game Pass to $30 a month, and $30 a month is where that price is gonna stay.
Microsoft has finally dropped the price of its Xbox Game Pass subscription plan. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, its top tier plan, is now $22.99 a month.
You know what? Screw pessimistic nihilism. I'm a delusional optimist now. We can beat this thing. And even if we can't, what have we got to lose? What was that phrase people kept saying 2 years ago during the Helldivers 2 fiasco? We dive together or not at all. Say no to Sony. Those words helped us all manage democracy. Goes to war with $1 billion company. Wins. We've beaten both Sony and Microsoft before. Now granted, Microsoft's wounds to Xbox were mostly self-inflicted, but our mass boycott and cancellation of Game Pass made Xbox and Microsoft bleed.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Every movement needs a catchy slogan, and 2 years later, we have our winner. No disc, no buy. We dive together or not at all.
Everyone fights, no one quits. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you.
Did you know that 62% of the globe, or 121 countries, are unable to create PSN accounts? Meaning they cannot access or buy any games from Sony or PlayStation in this all-digital future. I'm getting deja vu here. Does that number sound familiar? 121 countries? Oh, it's because Sony tried this same thing just 2 years ago. But instead of trying to block one game, now they want to block every PlayStation game. And this list of 121 countries is the exact same list that they were trying to block Helldivers 2 in. Not a single one has changed. So I have several questions, Sony. What is your beef with Madagascar? Is there some grudge you hold against Turkmenistan? Why? I find it hard to believe that Vietnam traumatized you in some way. Look, the point is, not even game journalists can figure out a convincing way to spin this horrible idea. Well, would you look at that?
Attention gamers. Sony's PlayStation Network is currently experiencing a major outage,
rendering thousands of...
I hate that. I don't have a PlayStation, but if... literally because of that, when the PlayStation Network wasn't working, that was when gamers first discovered that they do not own their games. Like... you need a PlayStation Network to play a single-player game. That's nuts. And okay, and imagine like, okay, if every game is on digital and you still need like PlayStation Network to monitor that you own the game, that you bought it, or or whatever reason they are thinking of. When have they have like a whole year of like no problems? Because even if it was like 1 year they only had like a PSN problem, it would be at mostly the wrong time.
Of digital games unplayable. This all-digital future seems really convenient, doesn't it? As much as I hate D-Dog,
I feel like I'm talking like I know things, but I'm only talking about like past events. I only heard that the PlayStation Network was down at like the worst time, like during an event of like some video games.
it does illustrate a massive flaw in the system, right? If Sony isn't the one shutting off access to your own games or movies, then some random person can do it too. Isn't that a comforting thought? On a structural level, neither Sony or Microsoft seem capable of supporting an all-digital future because even Xbox's servers went down recently. So even more reason to oppose this idea, as if we needed more reasons. We have all the reasons in the world to hate this, but Sony just can't stop there. You see, they have a new patent, a controller with digital buttons.
Because a very strange patent was found, a design document about the PlayStation 6 controller, and it doesn't have buttons.
The cast of Monty Python is running this company.
Castrating buttons. If I remember correctly, didn't like electric cars had like a touchscreen and it pissed? Okay, I'm sorry to say that. It made a lot of people angry. That is a bad place to pause. Like, the Eggman looks so sad in this pause moment. But, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm pretty sure there was a time when people had electric cars and it was only a touch screen and you had to use your voice or you had to, like, press on the touch screen, but sometimes it wouldn't respond, like it wasn't perfect. So they have to bring back buttons. If they do that, okay, I gotta fix that. It looks so. That's not a good place to go back to either. Basically, I'm trying to say is like, wouldn't they be reenacting the same thing that happened with the electric cars? Okay, I'm done talking.
Doesn't have buttons.
The cast of Monty Python is running this company. They don't even want us to own buttons. Do they think people are gonna get bored of hating on Sony? Bro, I'm watching this train wreck every day. Now, Alana Pierce came out with a very good video, revealing some very important intel. Now, there is one single thing I disagree with her on.
But today, let's specifically talk about PlayStation and why they just did something that everyone hates, that they knew we would all hate, the enormous public backlash that has come from that, and why none of that backlash, no amount of public outrage or petitioning, will be able to change it.
I may not agree.
Okay, I need a second. I need to clear my nose. Oh, my nose. I hate being sick.
Agree with your theory, but I am intrigued by it. Even if you're someone who genuinely believes that none of our efforts can change Sony's mind, aren't you curious if it will? I mean, how many rubber bands does it take to snap their watermelon? Don't you want to find out?
I remember that.
Oops. Helldivers 2 trained us for this moment. I think we should all collectively push against this in all the various ways that we can. Let's test this theory to its absolute limits. Folks, we have a year and a half to see how deep Sony is willing to dig their own grave. And the morally correct thing to do is to dunk on them every single opportunity you have. So I really just wanted to address this idea that everything is hopeless, give up, and just, you know, just let Sony have their way with you, right? Because I think that's bullshit. We were able to force EA, of all companies, to abandon a loot box monetization system. That doesn't even sound like it's true. Now, I'm genuinely passionate about this fight for physical ownership, and I don't plan on just leaving it at this video. I'm going to try and periodically post stuff on my second channel, Actman TV, and I have a little strategy guide for how we can fight back against Sony that I plan to upload there. As I said before, Sony's position is indefensible. These few game journalists referenced one obscure study originating from Blue Sky, and it doesn't prove anything other than maybe there's an argument that they could shut down physical games in the United States, but that argument is not applicable to the rest of the
I wasn't listening. I was distracted by the gameplay.
Blue Sky, and it doesn't prove anything other than maybe there's an argument that they could shut down physical games in the United States, but that argument is not applicable to the rest of the fucking planet, okay? So there still is no real argument in favor of destroying and shutting down all of the physical production of games that Sony has historically done for the last 2.5 decades, right? We're still back to square one, looking for an actual explanation as to why this is happening. Now, until that day comes when Sony unplugs their ears and says, here's why we're doing this, all we can assume is that this is done purely out of greed and to fuck all of us over. I should point out, the analyst IGN and other outlets are quoting is Dr. Serkan Toto, CEO of Japanese game industry consulting firm Canton Games. And he suggested that even if 500,000 people canceled their PS Plus subscriptions in protest, it would be just a drop in the ocean for Sony. Just give up, guys. Your efforts are fruitless. You know, they've already recovered from the $400 million Concord blunder. I mean, they can take more financial hits. They don't care about those. And whatever happened with Bungie, that's cool too. And if 500,000 of you want to unsubscribe, Sony couldn't give a shit. That's the message? That's horrible. Now, there is a great investigation on this independent analyst and others from Reddit user iRevenant. I'll link it in the description, but to quote his conclusion, the strongest honest case for going all digital is manufacturing savings and e-waste reduction. Sony is barely making that case, likely because they're lobbying against those exact environmental regulations in the EU. Instead, they're leaning on financial consultants to launder the story through the gaming press as consumer preference. Have you ever come up with a theory in your head and then you find someone else saying the exact same thing? You're like, okay, maybe I am onto something. I'm not crazy. So the point is, there's a high chance this consulting firm who released this data has financial incentives tied to Sony's killing of the disk drive. It would be beneficial for them if that does happen, which would be a massive conflict of interest and reason alone to completely discard this logic. So we're back to square one. They have not proposed a real argument. But there you have it, Sony's official response channeled through the voices of a few game journalists, and it is just as laughable as if they had made no statement at all. I hope everyone who watches this continues the fight for video game ownership in whatever meaningful ways you can contribute. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Actman for more awesome content. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Actman signing out. Peace.
In all seriousness, just go PC or anything. Or you could do the old Jack Sparrow move. I'm kidding. Or am I? It's up to you. You want to take the risk? Go ahead. Don't. It's just a word of warning. There is a risk. Alright, peace.